Be revealing more about his taxes. In the 1996 filing, the Republican presidential candidate declares a loss of more than $900 million, and that may mean Trump actually benefited. Experts say because of that loss, he could have avoided paying income tax, federal income tax, for many years. Now, Trump has repeatedly refused to share any of his tax information in the past. Here's our Christina Alessi with more.
Here's what the New York Times is reporting. Trump declared a loss of $916 million in 1995, and that loss could be used to cancel taxable income for potentially up to 18 years, according to tax experts the paper hired. Key details are still missing because the New York Times doesn't have Trump's complete tax returns, and CNN can't confirm the authenticity of the documents the paper does have. But the report means even if Trump made $916 million in the years after 1995, he could potentially have paid little or no taxes on that income. How is that possible? It all comes down to something called net operating loss, according to the Times. When a business has more tax-deductible expenses than income, you end up with what the IRS calls a net operating loss. Now, people might be asking, if Trump could write off such a large loss over so many years, why can't I do this? Most people are familiar with a different type of deduction, capital losses. Typically, these are tied to stocks, bonds, and other investments, and there are different rules for those and limits on how you can use them. With Trump, we're most likely talking about a loss from operating a business, which according to the IRS is the most common reason for a net operating loss. If Trump had much of his wealth tied up in businesses, any losses in those businesses might flow directly to him, so he could use them to reduce his own tax bill in future years. It's important to keep in mind that the tax code allows you to do this. The Trump campaign responded, saying the candidate paid hundreds of millions of dollars in other taxes, including property and real estate taxes. But it didn't directly deny the Times reporting on the federal income tax. And Trump himself responded to the report with this tweet. I know our complex tax laws better than anyone who has ever run for president, and I'm the only one who can fix them. Hashtag failing at New York Times. I spoke to the accountant cited in the Times story. He took issue with the story because Trump's income in subsequent years isn't public. So does this tell us that Trump lost all of this money only in 1995? The answer is no. Almost $1 billion is a lot of money to lose. We don't know exactly what happened and when it happened. We do know that his businesses were hurting in the early 1990s, Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, the Plaza Hotel in New York, for example. Operating losses from those businesses could have been listed on his tax returns earlier in the 1990s, and then he could have carried them over to 1995. But we actually don't even know if he used these losses to offset income in later years. The tax law says he could have, but without the returns from those later years, we can't know for sure. The big question is, do these documents help us understand how much Donald Trump is really worth? Again, the answer is no. As for how much Donald Trump is really worth, his campaign puts his net worth at $10 billion. Independent analysts at Forbes say it's closer to $3.7 billion, and Bloomberg puts it at $3 billion. So still a lot of questions around that, but it's unlikely that any additional tax information is going to tell us how much he's worth overall. What it will tell us is how much he's earned for the year, how much he's given away to charity, and potentially shed light on how he does business.
All right, our Christina Alessi reporting there. Thanks to Christina for that. Now, some critics of Trump